Yeah, my background is in entrepreneurship and software startups. And the last startup I worked on was around building a mobile browser that turns any web page into a native mobile experience using machine learning and all these other things. And so in that process, we dealt with a lot of video content because people browse video all the time on their mobile phones, and we had to do all kinds of hacks to make video work really smoothly on the phone, and try to preload the video, like all this stuff, and put the video onto our infrastructure to serve them, right? So I kind of got a taste of what it was like to build an application that has a video component, which is very difficult and very challenging, right? It takes twice as long and 10 times more expensive than building any other application. And that also gave me an opportunity to really look into the underlying economics of all of these video platforms. And what I realized is, these platforms are taking a huge cut in all the value that's floating through the network, right? So like if you look at a video platform that basically allows people to post their content so that they can show other people, right? Something like a YouTube. We call that like a two-sided marketplace, right? If you look at a two-sided marketplace like Uber or Airbnb, any of these other marketplaces that are popular, they take 5%, 3%, right, of the transaction, and people are outraged. They're like, oh my God, there's so much money they're taking, right? And these video platforms can take up to 80% of the transaction that's happening on the platform, which means if you posted a video, I wanted to pay you $1, you only got 20 cents, and the platform kept 80 cents, right? And that's insane. So and of course it's not without reasons, right? It's hard to build these applications, very expensive to run them, right? It's very hard to make them profitable, right? So they're these operators are forced to make these trade-offs. But when we first started looking into this blockchain space, and which was when like Ethereum AlphaNet first launched, when we realized, blockchain is not just about cryptocurrency. Wow, that's a great use case, right? You can actually build decentralized applications and decentralize all kinds of stuff. That was like the moment that was like, oh yeah, like we can build a decentralized video solution that actually empowers the user, and it's like a tool that a user can use instead of a service that you're beholden to using, and you have no control in like what the service does to your stuff, right? So it'll be like, back in the day, I used ICQ to like chat with people online, right? Like, you download the software and you connect to your friends, and that's the tool that you use. But now everything is hosted as a service, right? So users kind of lose that autonomy. So I think the genesis of the project was very much around like how do we create a structure so that the users are actually in control, and they have the flexibility to control the economics, to control how their content is distributed, and to control how, like, if they're an entrepreneur that provides a service to other people, how, like, what their business model is. So these are some of the things. And of course, we try to build, like, the first step was to build a decentralized video app, right? And we very quickly realized that it's very difficult because we have no decentralized video infrastructure to build the app on. So if you wanted to do that and not build the infrastructure, you just end up with a pretty thin layer of decentralized application on a thick layer of centralized video infrastructure, and which takes away the power of this application that's decentralized, right? So that's when we started to really focus on building this decentralized video application so that anybody else can come along and build the decentralized application that uses this infrastructure to solve all kinds of problems. Yeah. At its core, the Livepeer project is about creating a tool so that video application developers can use that tool to build all kinds of applications for any kind of content creators, right? Because there's so many use cases for video. like we said, 80% of all the content on the internet is video, right? And people use it for all kinds of stuff. So I think the best way to address those use cases well is to build specific experiences that really address those niches, right? So even if you look at YouTube today, YouTube is segmented into different niches, different types of video, right? So there's like, I just got a puppy this year, and I've been watching a lot of how to train your puppy videos, right? And there's like education videos, there's like fitness videos, right? Like all kinds of different sectors. And if you think about, okay, what would I do today if I want to build a fitness video application? It probably would not look like YouTube. It probably would look something different, right? But because YouTube has gotten to this scale, it's very difficult for somebody else to build a fitness version and try to compete with YouTube, right? And just from a cost standpoint, it costs so much money to run this video infrastructure that it's very difficult for newcomers to come in. And that's where Livepeer really shines. It's because Livepeer creates this infrastructure solution that's 10 to 50 times cheaper than what YouTube is using, right? So now you can have the superpower of using this alternative infrastructure to build an application that really caters to a specific audience that then competes with these like established players in the space that are at so much scale. Yeah, so that's something that's that's a hard problem, right? You can address it kind of with a few different angles. There's not going to be one solution that solves this problem for you. Like every content platform fights this problem, even the YouTubes and Facebooks of the world, right? Like there's so much issue around that.
It's like a
right?
long-running problem.
Totally.
For everyone.
Yeah. So one way that we address it is by creating a very positive community. It's just the ethos in the community is about creating value for people and not about doing bad stuff, right? And so if you're a person who wants to do bad stuff, you feel uncomfortable being in this community, right? And of course that's not a foolproof solution, but it helps, right? And another thing that we talk about is this idea of the infrastructure providers themselves have the option to do whatever they want, right? So because this is a decentralized ecosystem, if I was the infrastructure provider in this ecosystem, I can decide who I want to work with and who I don't want to work with. So it's totally up to me to make that decision. And this is really important because imagine like every geographical location has some different sets of rules about what's allowed and what's not allowed, right? And let's not even get into the illegal stuff. Let's talk about like politics or like all of these things that are kind of in the gray area. Like in some areas, like in China, you're not allowed to talk bad things about the Communist Party, right? Like in here you are, right? So it's important for the node operators who operate in any area to protect themselves from this liability. And so we give them the option to choose who they want to work with to kind of bypass this problem. Yeah, I think that's definitely a possibility, and that's something that this decentralized ecosystem kind of gives you, right? Is the freedom to innovate on these models, right? So I don't claim to know what the best model is to incentivize content creators, right? And I'm guessing it's going to be different for different content creators. Yeah. But what we're missing today is the flexibility on the infrastructure level for these types of experiments to happen, right? Because today, if you want to use a video infrastructure provider, you have to sign a contract. You have to do all these things. You have to pay them in a monthly fashion, right? So it's very hard for you as the application developer to then break that down and break down the unit economics to do experiments, right? But in this decentralized ecosystem, blockchain-based world, you just have so much more freedom. And there are many applications that are built on top of Livepeer that are experimenting with this. So I talked about a project called DTalk, which was a hackathon project that was built a couple months ago, and it's a streaming service that's built on top of Livepeer that allows the viewer to pay the content creator to watch the stream, right? So, I can have like some kind of deposit. Say I deposit $1, then I'm able to watch X minutes from that dollar, and then the price is set by the content creator themselves, right? So, that's it's a simple mechanism, but it's an experiment that hasn't really existed, right? And I think there's going to be interesting experiments just like that explores these types of incentives. Whether it's virtual goods, whether it's pay as you go, whether it's like some kind of like payment based on the viewership, like all these different ways that you can experiment with. But the infrastructure itself needs to provide the flexibility for these things to exist.